Like we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncut Threads. Today, I want to say thank you to my panelists, Matt and Elise, and hopefully Liz will be joining us soon. Um, so today's topic is More Than Classes, How Quilt Africa Summit Builds Quilters, Communities, and Confidence. Um, when people think about quilt summits, they often think about classes, techniques, patterns, and maybe a supply list. And those things matter, but a summit can also give us something deeper. It can give us connection, it can give us courage, it can help us see our own work differently. It can remind us quilting is not just something we do alone at a sewing machine. It is also something we build together, stitch by stitch, story by story, person by person. Today, we're going to talk about how Quilt Africa Summit supports quilters beyond the classroom. We'll discuss community confidence, representation, creative growth, and what happens when quilters gather in spaces where creativity, culture, and storytelling is centered and celebrated. I'm honored to have, well, it's supposed to be three of us. Liz hasn't made it yet. Quilters joining us for the conversation. Each brings their own experience, voice. Here's Liz. Um, and quilting journey to the table. Hi, Liz. I was just doing it and you're muted, Liz. So, first, what I'd like is for um, all of us panelists to introduce ourselves, and I'll go first. So, can you each introduce yourself? Give us your name, where you're from, how long you've been quilting, and a word that describes what quilting community means to you. So, I'll start. Then we'll go to Matt, then Elise, then Elizabeth. My name is Judie Pokakaa. I currently live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Um, and I've been quilting now for 5 years, and I've been having fun with it. I did help my grandma tie her quilts when I was a little girl, but I didn't learn quilting back then. One word that describes what quilting community means to me really is ideas. Matt?
Yeah, my name is Matt. I come from a family of quilters, great grandma, grandma, mom, all quilted. And I started very young hand quilting with my grandma. My mom taught me how to use a machine and read patterns. My great grandma dropped some knowledge on me as well. So I've been quilting for about 35 years now and done it seriously and professionally since about 2020. And really, the word that I think of when I think of quilting is family, because it's my connection to my family and that history there.
Elise?
My name is Elise. I'm Elise Eddings. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. Um, I've been sewing a long time. I was probably in one of the last classes of home ec that no longer exists. However, I've only been quilting for about 2 years, and I really enjoy it. And what I enjoy about quilting, what it has meant for me is mentorship, because I have only done it really in a community center environment. It's been very community for me because I don't quilt often by myself.
Liz?
What was the question?
Uh, give us your name, where you're from, and describe how long you've been quilting,
Mhm.
and one word that describes what quilting community means to you.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Whitehead, and I am here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I started quilting roughly around 1995 because I was bored and I found a book. So that's where the journey started. And as far as, the community and everything, I'm going to say it's a combination of friends and family. Um, my aunt, mother-in-law, my great aunt, they would make quilts, and I learned. Sorry, I decided that when I was watching him, I would. I thought I'm going to learn to do that, so I did.
Thank you all. I really love hearing how people come into quilting and what's important to them. And, even though we all came in differently, I think that, so, we really um, kind of have fun in the community. It helps us to really, really meet new people and stuff like that. So let's move and let's talk about our first question. When you hear the phrase more than classes, what does that mean to you in relation to Quilt Africa Summit or quilting events like it? So more than just classes, what does that mean to you? Uh, Elise, would you like to start?
Sure. The classes and the summit um, bring accountability for me. I have a hard time staying on task by myself. Also, again, the mentorship, someone to look over my shoulder and give their advice um, on how to improve what I'm doing. Also, I found that like beyond basic like sewing garments and so forth, quilting has such a wide availability for expression, and the techniques are endless, and the artisticness is endless. And I feel like learning in each class just brings so much to my arsenal of tools.
Thank you. How about you, Matt?
For me, these summits bring together a lot of different people, and you get that kind of crossover. And sometimes if we've been learning like I have from my great grandma and grandma and things, we kind of get stuck in our ways as quilters, and we keep doing things the same way over and over and over again. And if in these summits you're bringing in people of of all different experiences, and they might be pulling from techniques that they're using in paper crafting or woodworking or something like this, that we as quilters can be integrating into our process, that makes things faster or more interesting or changes things around. So for me, it's that those crossovers and those those cool Venn diagramming moments that we get when different mediums kind of come together and can challenge our ways of doing for the better.
Got it. I like that. Um, Liz, Elizabeth.
Hang on, had to unmute because Cooper the Wonder Dog is being very overprotective right now.
No.
The phrase more than classes, a lot of it is sometimes you can cultivate some really good relationships with some of your fellow students, or if you're presenting a quick trunk show, slideshow, or whatever, some of the when you get the questions, the something that you can answer, or someone asks a question that, oh, I never thought of it that way. And it's, to me, like I said, it's the relationships that you can start developing through the summits. I know personally, I've made a couple of other friends in the industry that because of the summits, and then we've learned from each other. I mean, we all have our classes that we all go through and teach and participate in around the community that we all live in. But I think a lot of it is you understand other quilters that are not necessarily in your locality. So I think that's kind of really important when they say more than classes, because you never know, you could that cultivating a new friendship is, for me, it's really, I like that. It's kind of nice to have someone in the other part of the world, other part of the country, and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I will say that when it comes to more than classes, it, I get so many ideas. I get so many when people are talking, and sometimes people ask questions that I'm just like, oh, that's a good question. I didn't think of that question, but I'm glad I got that answer to it. So that is for me more than just classes mean that somebody who's looking at it a different way than me
Mhm.
really might ask a question that I needed to know and didn't know I needed that answer. So that's when I say more than classes, that's kind of what I think about. Um, has how has being part of a quilting community helped you grow as a quilter? Um, I'm going to answer that first because I was always in a traditional quilting group. And when I moved to New Mexico, I went into the Modern Quilt Guild and it opened up so much more, art quilting and actually saying, okay, I can use traditional quilting and make it modern. With my grandmother, when she was, when I was tying her quilts and stuff like that, what I knew was this was part of my grandfather's shirt. This was my uncle's pants. This was this and this. And then she'd mix some other fabrics with it. So I right now am still a part of a traditional group. I'm part of a modern group. And, I get so many different ideas. So that's what I really like. And what has helped me to grow as a quilter is just seeing the difference between modern and traditional, and the show and tells are out of this world. And they put together colors that I'm just like, I wouldn't have put those two colors together, but now I can put those two colors together because I really see how beautiful they are together. Matt?
For me, it is kind of like that inspiration and competition where those two things meet. Like someone might show off something that they're working on, and it's not competition from like, oh, I want to, be better than them, but it's like competition like, oh, I need to get going on that project. I need to get that finished up. And also the inspiration that you get. You touched on this, Judie, is like seeing stuff that color combinations that you wouldn't have thought to put together that get you thinking about the next project that you're gonna be thinking about for a little while, or like maybe I think of I did a project that Elizabeth had wrote the pattern for, and what was cool for me in the guild setting of presenting that is I other people had their quilts done before me, and it was like, oh, that's how they quilted that. That's how I'm going to pull from those, and that's going to help me finish my project because I've kind of been kind of stuck in how I'm going to get this quilted. And then I saw someone else do it, and I'm like, oh, duh, that's how I'm, maybe I'm not going to do it exactly like that, but that gives me the impetus to be like, oh, why was I waiting? Why was I sitting around in this, you know, kind of stewing stage of things? It kind of gets me to that next step.
Right. I got it. Elise?
I am also queen of the UFOs. So definitely seeing everyone finish their project encourages me and motivates me to finish mine. Definitely watching everyone else's creativity opens my mind to what I could do a little different to mine. So definitely that is the top answer for me as well.
Okay. How about you, Elizabeth? Mom, taking time to get an oil change. You're Liz, you're muted.
That's okay. Like I said, Cooper the Wonder Dog, he's being very protective. For me, being part of the quilting community has helped me as a writer. And what I'm saying is I've learned so many other techniques, like there's probably 150 ways to make flying geese. But because everybody's got their own method, so it's helped me be a better writer, as I'm portraying, what I need to say for a beginner or an intermediate or a advanced quilter. But just, being part of that community. And the other thing is the community helps me when I'm working a project that I'm not sure about, that I need to bounce some ideas off of. And sometimes the community is really good at telling you, like, that looks like garbage. So it works out both ways. And they also give you a lot more inspiration. And that's quite important to me, because when you're thinking of, you learn to not think inside the box. You start learning to think outside the box and asking your question, what if I changed this traditional block to something else? What if I recolored it? What if I took a part out of it? Those are a lot of things I think about, because in the community, like I said, I started in the traditional applique, very Baltimore-y style, and moved on to modern and art. So it's a whole genre out there. It's a whole, like, circle. I'm not going to say circle of life, but the circle of quilts. And that's what the community has basically helped me as a writer and a quilter.
Hmm. That's interesting because I never thought about the fact that if you are a pattern writer, being in these groups and learning
Mhm.
what people's issues are. Because, like, when I guess I can think about the same with asking questions. When someone asks a question and you're writing a pattern, that would make you say, oh, let me, file that away so that when I write a pattern, I would be able to um, make sure that I have that question answered in the pattern. So I never thought about that, but
Mhm.
that is,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Um, what do you think quilters gain from seeing other quilters share their work, their process, and even their mistakes? Um, I'm going to start this one off because I will tell you, one thing that I've always been afraid of is showing my work. And sometimes I look at these beautiful quilts at my guild and online, and I'm just like, I can never do that. I've only been quilting for 5 years. And so when we have show and tell, and someone says, okay, this is my quilt, but you know what? I messed up on a block, so that one's not there. Or, Liz, you taught a class and you had people to pick out a mistake you made. And I was just like, Liz has been quilting for so much longer than me, but she still is like, hey, I made a mistake in that quilt. Pick it out,
Find it.
so but that's something, I really appreciate when it comes to quilters and they are right there to say, hey, I made this mistake. And, don't think that everything I do is perfect, so that
Mhm.
is something that really, really helps me. When especially when they share their process, that helps me because when I first looked at, so my first quilt was 100 blocks in 100 days. When I looked at that quilt and it was paper piecing, I was just like, I can't do that. And I had my friend who was like, yes, you can, is one block a day. Cut it down to size. And so once I stopped looking at the whole quilt and started looking at my one block, then I was like, oh, okay. I'm glad she shared with me, like, stop looking at the whole quilt. Think about it in bite-sized pieces. So I was just
Mhm.
like, okay. So, Matt?
I work with a lot of beginners. I taught on TikTok for a long time, and pointing to my mistakes and showing them was not only my goal to try to inspire a little bit more confidence, but it also is a way to say, like, look, you've got to look at this mistake, and we can all see it right here. Where if I'm holding it at close, you can see it right here. But if I hold it back a little bit, does the mistake fade into nothing? Can you see that mistake at all? And so then that's a discussion of, like, do we seam rip, or do we is good enough for this project? And so that's kind of where I go in on it. Is it going to be something that you zoom in on, you're going to be bothered about it for the next 50 years because it's going to be a quilt that's on your bed and you're going to see it every day. And that one mistake is going to jump out at you. And you need to go in and seam rip it and fix that. But if it's something, if you're a lot of us quilters, so for non-quilters, they don't know what the heck they're looking at half the time. So I am saying if you're sewing for a non-quilter and your points aren't totally pointing all the time, they don't know that it's not supposed to do that. So
Yeah.
That's where I come at it is very practically like, I'm happy to show my mistakes. And every time I show a mistake, I got people coming in being like, well, don't show us that. We would never have seen it. That's the point. That's the point. That's why I'm showing it to you. So that way, when you're sewing, you can make these judgment calls. And, 100 blocks a day is a lot. That's a lot. Especially if you have to go back and seam rip every little mistake that you do. But if you can look at it and say, hey, this block is good enough for this project as a whole, I can move on with it. There's merit in that. We've got a lot of quilts to make. I want everybody turning out 1 million quilts. We can't nitpick every single corner if we're making 100 quilts in a year. There's give and take. So that's why I really like pointing my mistakes to beginners, is to have this discussion of, is it good enough for you? Is it good enough 6 feet away on a moving horse? Is this going to a non-quilter? Is this going to a baby who's going to vomit on it nonstop? Like, so that's where I come in at it. And I'm more than happy to always point out my mistakes to people and have a serious conversation of say, like, look, that mistake is one I can't live with. I'm going to go back and seam rip that one because that gets too much under my skin. But these 16 other mistakes right here that I had to point out to you for you to see, those mistakes don't deserve my time. I have more important things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I will tell you, I was making all these blocks and I had one block, and for some reason I could not figure out what was wrong. And I kept looking at it and kept looking at it. And then my son came in and he said, Mom, how come that block's different? And I was like, oh, there's where it was. That's what I saw. And I was like, I could not figure it out myself. And, did I seam rip it? No, I just made another block and I just put that one to the side and said it'll go in something else. But like, had I not had enough fabric, maybe because I overbuy fabric, I might have seam ripped it and, redid it. But that's my thing. If he can come in and pick out what is wrong, then I'm going to change it because he's not a quilter at all. But if he comes in and is like, well, I don't see anything wrong with that, then it's fine and I leave it. It's just like, all right.
On to the next quilt. We got too much to do.
Yes. Elise, as a new
Judie,
quilter?
yeah, creativity is messy. And I'm learning to revert back to my childlike self and allow myself some freedom to just, be a mess. And I think that's what it is. You're a mess until you're better. And being in a group where everyone is at different levels of expertise, you get to see where you may be if you keep at it, So I appreciate the freedom to be messy and to be accepted in my, with my faults and everything, and to be shown how to get better.
Yeah. Elizabeth?
I have two trains of thought that I use personally. One is if I'm going to be teaching a class, I try to be as accurate as possible, knowing full well that one point's going to get chopped off. I'm going to accidentally put something in the wrong direction. But I keep those in there for a reason, is because I want my students to learn that sometimes that mistake can turn into a positive thing. Now, if I'm going to do something that's going to be in competition, yes, I'm going to be very more careful. I'm going to be much more diligent on what I'm doing. But for, the normal quilter, and my saying is, if you can see it 30 miles away, then yeah, you're in trouble. But other than that, I wouldn't worry about it. And I tell my students that. I've taught a couple of mystery classes where they had to be precise, and they weren't. But I also taught them that it's okay to be precise, but it's also okay not to. It will all work out in the end. I also think that I personally, I'm a royal wreck. I'm a mess. I look at my mom. My mom is a good example. Her sewing room is spotless and pristine. My sewing room looks like a tornado blew through it. And my cousin is so itching to come in and organize my sewing room, and I'm going, don't touch. Because I know where everything's at. I know where my fabrics are. I know what I'm going to do. But you know, you when you get that from all angles, you think, okay, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my mess the way I want to make it. And if that point chops off, it's not the end of the world. And that's what I try to convey to my students, especially because I was teaching beginners also. If if it happens, it happens. You just learn to pivot. And a lot of us back in the day when we were first learning, we had to have that perfect seam. We had to have that perfect point, that perfect corner, and we'd rip it out. And we'd rip it out. I have a quilt I call the Stinking Points Don't Match quilt. It was called the Rio Grande Sampler originally, but my name of it is the Stinking Points Don't Match because it was one block that kicked my you know what. I could not get it to work. The points don't match. Some of them got chopped off. But when you look at it from far away, who cares? Who sees it? Nobody.
Right.
So that's the name. That's why I named it the Stinking Points Don't Match quilt. And I do drag it around every now and then to classes. But yeah, I don't worry about things like that as much anymore. Now, if I'm putting one in competition, yeah, I'll worry about it. But other than that, no. You want to have fun. You want to play. You want to mess with your fabrics. You want to do all kinds of things like that. And that's what my personal feeling is that just go in and play, become your inner child, get those crayons, those ink tints, those whatever you want to do, and do it up and do something different, do something unique to you. And that's one of the things that if you're talking about question number 3, and also guild meetings, great. Yes, we sit there and watch the show and tell, and well, I made a mistake in this one, and I'm going like, where?
Right.
Yeah. So unless you're a qualified judge, you're not going to find it. It don't matter. That's one of the things that I try to encourage my newer students is that yes, you're going to make mistakes, but you guys have to remember, I've been doing this for 35 plus years. Not your second class. That's a big difference. But once they understand that, it's a lot easier and they start getting more confident in themselves. That's where I'm trying to instill the confidence. Don't freak out. Just move on. And if that block doesn't work, you put it away, go do another one. It comes back and you can work on it. And yes, I have several seam rippers named Jack, and they're all over the house.
One other thing that I thought I had too is a discussion of the mistakes also leads to a discussion of how to fix those mistakes and how to problem solve in the moment. And you might have those moments where there's no fabric left and you've made a critical error in cutting and there's nothing that you can do to make the block as it was originally intended, and you got to go in and get creative and figure those things out. And sometimes when we as teachers are pointing out these mistakes and saying, oh, I should have spiraled my seams for this part, or I should have done this for this, that will tell your students, give them clues of other techniques that maybe they're not aware of and can learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited.
Yeah, my grandmother, her saying was, if anybody is that close to your quilt, poke them in the eye. They're not supposed to
I love it.
They're not supposed to be picking apart what you did, and for her, when she was making quilts and stuff like that, even when she made clothes and stuff, and she would teach me some things about her sewing machine. She had a treadle, she never had one you plugged in. It was always, foot power. And, she would always say, yeah, you can see your mistakes, but nobody else really can. Nobody
Mhm.
cares that that little seam on your jacket is a little bit off. And so same with her quilts, because she was just like, well, I guess that's where the crazy quilt comes in. She would make, she had to cut out pieces from clothing and stuff like that. She didn't just have, like, she'd probably be like, why do you have so much fabric? If she walked into my sewing room,
Probably freak out
that's, yeah.
when she sees
She
mine.
didn't have that. Exactly. She didn't have that. So it's one of those things that, I learned early on. Who cares if there's really a mistake, unless, your block might be a little bit too small. And if it is, add a little
Add a
piece on
coping
it.
strip, call it, yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
you always have that moment too when an experienced quilter is pulling out a quilt that has a big mistake and they take like 15 minutes to find the freaking mistake, and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, like that's always a really telling moment for me too, when someone's like, oh, it's a huge mistake, and they pull out their quilt and they're looking and looking and looking and looking for it, and then they finally find it, and you're like, okay, that really inspires me for the future when I'm having those moments and I'm like, this point isn't pointing. I'm like, oh yeah, but no one's ever going to see that. It's going to take me 15 minutes to find that
That's
Yeah.
later on.
that's why I refer to the stinking points don't match quilt.
Yeah, it's just interesting. And that's the thing. When we gather, we learn so much from others. Like,
Mhm.
Quilt Africa Summit, you have all these different teachers, and, you might have learned to do something one way, and then you're like, oh, well, I like that way better because this teacher showed it a different way. Like Liz said about the
Flying
flying.
geese.
Oh,
Hmm.
I think Judy froze.
Yeah, there she froze. But yeah, there's like 100 ways to make flying geese.
Yep.
You just got to pick it.
Yeah, and some methods work better in
Mhm.
some instances, and others work better in other instances.
Mhm.
And so knowing when to pull those out is very helpful. And having those discussions and asking the people like, why'd you do it this way? Well, I was only making one flying geese, so I didn't need to make the 16 at a time method, or I had to make a million of them, so I had to do the 32 at a time method, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's important.
What advice would you give a quilter who's nervous about attending a summit, joining a group, or sharing their work?
I've been a part of the guild for 2 years, and no one has ever reacted negatively to any quilt that has been shown, even if it's not something that, would work in my house. Someone might show, I'm very modern of a quilter and I use very bold colors, and we get people that show stuff that's done in reproductions, or, stuff that's a little bit more muted. And it's not, something that I would sew myself, but I still give them a furious round of applause because it's incredible. I love to see it. We all love to see them as quilters. And I would say, what advice would I give is, think of yourself, if somebody showed you something, how would you react? You're just taking in new information. You're not you're gonna be wowed by it. It's gonna be awesome. Um, you're just taking in new information. You don't have enough time to look at the nitpicky little things and those kinds of stuff. And So that's where I come at it. Like, think about yourself as the quilter, or the person, like, reacting to it. How would you react if someone's showing you something? That's how anyone's going to react if you're showing your
Mhm.
stuff.
I think even as a new quilter, even if you're staying in the dark with your mic and your camera off, you're going to be inspired
Absolutely.
to be creative, and you're going to get confidence to move forward. I have not entered any competitions, but I enjoy every summit. I love them. And I think that's the biggest thing you can do for yourself to get rid of the nervousness, for sure.
Mhm.
Definitely.
You haven't done competitions yet.
Yet.
No,
Yes.
you're the first time.
Yes.
There's always that first time for competitions, and there's also and I know that a lot of quilters will not put anything in shows. If there's a non-judge show, I always encourage them to just show it. It doesn't matter. Because you want your fellow quilters to see your work. You want them to see what you've done. And the other thing is say like you get this pattern that has these gorgeous fabrics on it and you use your own stash. To me, that's the most really cool thing. And it builds your confidence when you can pick out your own colors and put your own combinations together. And that's one of the things, as we teach, that we want to instill with, new quilters to build their confidence so that they can walk into a quilt shop and say, ooh, I like that fabric line, but I want that one, and that one, instead of the whole line that is already coordinated for you. But yeah, just to watch, somebody to, you know, gain their confidence. And yes, there are some that it may take several classes to do that. But when they do that, that's a lot. To me, it's very um, satisfying to see that new person who who is starting in this group community and just attending sometimes a simple lecture, sometimes just going to a guild meeting, sometimes doing something online. It's that are all tiny little confidence builders, and I think that's important.
It really does depend on the group too. I mean,
True.
we're lucky to say that because we do have this good group of people that are all very supportive.
Right.
And if you're in a group of people that are a bunch of stinkers, then find a better group. Like
Or create a
find
better group.
or create it. Yeah. On this online uh now that we have this resource of online summits and that kind of thing, you can find a summit like this one where people are very, very encouraging and welcoming, and those are the good people to be around, and surround yourself by those people, because that'll and keep you coming back and keep you excited. Um and if the people are a bunch of stinkers, then get the heck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I will say the Quilt Africa tribe is the best. This year was my first year teaching a class Zoom wise, and I was very, very nervous about it, but everybody was like, "Oh, that was wonderful and that was great." And I was just like, are they just saying that? But they were very encouraging. And, I even had a couple the workshop participants say, if you hadn't told us that this was your first time, we would have never known. And so, but I was very, very nervous. And I was just like, oh, people are going to be like, this is horrible. But nobody said that. And I will tell you, like, the best thing in the world is when people post their finished quilts, in the on Facebook. And I love it when people send me questions. I am doing the block of the month this year for Quilt Africa, and it has just been wonderful. When I see people post their blocks, when I see, people talk about in some of the other groups that are not Quilt Africa, they'll post in other groups that I might be in on Facebook, and they'll post that, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, it's just like holding a little baby. you
I
know
know how I feel.
Yes, I was just like, oh, somebody finished it. Oh, somebody finished it. And so, having Quilt Africa Tribe, Quilt Africa Summit, it really encouraged, especially the new quilter, to do it. You
Mhm.
know, um, Coming from a traditional background and moving to modern quilts was difficult, I will say. But I was encouraged by the group. Um, it was because, when you're traditional, I want the pattern. I'm going to try to make my quote look exactly like your pattern picture. But going into modern quilting, art quilting, and even teaching and telling, saying, hey, your quilt won't does not have to look exactly like mine. Pick your own fabrics. Those kind of classes really helped me. And going into the summit and seeing what someone has done, I mean, it was a boost. Using for me, the hardest part of quilting has always been color. And listening to different people talk about value, listening, when I'm sitting there in a class or, listening to a lecture and someone says, okay, let me teach you value. Oh, this has made it so much easier. Using African fabrics has made color so different for me. I think that I probably did not quilt earlier simply because I would be like, okay, does this go together? Do I like this? Will people not like this? And then I'll say, hey, I thought about that color combination that I see, and I'm like, it looks really good together. I should have done that, So just going to Summit, just being parts of a group has really, really helped me with my color confidence. I mean, really helped me with my color confidence. So for new quilters, I think the best thing is a summit, is, a quilting group. And the reason is you learn so much. Even if, like Elise says, you don't show yourself, you don't show a quilt, but you would learn
You
so
showed up.
much.
Showing up, yeah. If you show up, just being a part of it is infectious, and yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's true. It's very
So I just want to know, because we got, quilters from with different backgrounds and different experiences. What would you like to see more in the quilting community and summits in the future? What kind of things should be at summits that will help new quilters, that will help intermediate quilters, that will help pro quilters?
I'm happy to start.
Good.
I one area of quilting that really excites me is quilt fashion. People that make quilted clothing and quilted garments and things like that. And I've brought quilt fashion shows to QuiltCon, and I would like every quilt show to have a low stakes fashion show to because what's very exciting to me are those I kind of talked about it earlier, those areas where we challenge ourselves in how we approach quilting and what we're doing with quilting and learning new techniques to make things easier. And for me, I come from a costume background, and I had come from a serious line of quilters. And when I was working in costume studios, I would bring like acrylic rulers to get work done, and they'd make fun of me as, oh, you're a quilter, that's a quilting thing, and da da da. And then they'd start seeing me like use it to cut, and you could see through the acrylic ruler versus using like a metal ruler that you can't see through. They'd be like, hey, let me see that ruler a second, So that for me is really, it's like, it's just a tool. You're not gonna grow gray hair just because you're using a quilting tool all of a sudden, like it's only going to help you to get better tools and get better things in your arsenal. So for me, that's what I love, the things that inspire other people to kind of bring things to the table and new techniques and that kind of stuff. That's what I like to see more of, and people challenging our norms and saying, hey, why do you do that this way? We could use it this way. That for me is where it's really exciting.
So like a more crossover between fashion and quilting, crossover
Just
between
crossover from
different.
any, like I think of the first person to ever suggest using rotary cutters, in the quilting world. My great grandma had a heart attack. She knew that was going to be the ending of quilting as we know it. And we fast forward a few years, and it's only helped the industry and improved the industry, because we can get through so much faster and more accurately than doing it the old way, with cutting out templates from cereal boxes and cutting them out by hand and that kind of thing. So For me, it's like, how can we make things better? How can we improve? How can we, what's that innovation that we can do?
Yeah.
Versatility, the versatility. Yeah. That's one of them. Coming from an engineering background, um, sometimes just showing someone a structured approach to doing something. But I was just thinking when Matt was talking about the rulers, one of the things I noticed that when last few trade shows that I've gone to, they always had the demo, the newest ruler, the newest whatever, and showed people how to use it. Even if we have a short class or something like that on how to use the thousands of rulers that we buy, how to use them properly, how to use them in a fashion that makes sense to you, how to use them for shortcuts. I mean, you can buy a whole bunch of angled stuff, but that one 6.5 by 24, you can do a lot of things with that one particular ruler. And those things are important for some of the beginners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching them from trade shows. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right that we do need to bring in a little bit more of how to use things because there are times when, for me, I kind of stumble through how to use something. So I'll look at it and, maybe I'll try to go find a video. And
Text Liz.
yeah, right. That's my other thing is text Liz like, hey, what do you think about this? How do I use this or what should I do with this? So I think you're right that, number one, I love what Matt said of how can I use something else, in quilting that could make it easier and demos of how to use stuff. Elise, what about you? What do you think would be something that you'd like to see in the future at summits?
Well, since I'm new, I'm still enjoying more of the same. I really love how international quilting has made the quilting world for me. I've been a Joanne shopper, for years, and I've never seen some of the patterns or colors that I've seen since I've been using African fabrics, and I'm blown away by that. And I'm sure that there are other parts of the world where there are things that we still haven't seen. And I hope that you guys keep incorporating the bigger world and
Cool.
including the different cultures in it. That the historical significance and the cultural significance is just mind blowing and encourages me to want to do more.
Yeah. So at the Modern Quilt Guild, we did a quilting around the world, and that's how I got Miriam to come and speak at our guild. And I think that that's another thing that people who are in all these different kinds of guilds, when we get together and have a summit, then you'll be like, oh, I'd like my guild members to see this, or, that's a good teacher. And I think you're writing down information to go back and say, oh, look, I found this teacher and she'll teach on Zoom. And I think that's one of the big things is when you bring these teachers from all over the place that teaches through Zoom, it's, my grandma would be amazed that somebody from Africa could teach her and in her little sewing room. It would just be amazing for her because I just think about everything she knows about quilting was out of need. It was not out of, wait, you do what? I took my mom to QuiltCon this year and she was like, wait, kids did these quilts? Yes, ma'am, kids did these quilts. She was just, her world of quilting was for warmth. It was not at all for art, and she was just so amazed. And so now I got her on the internet looking up different things. Does she really, really want to make art quilts? Nope. But does she love art quilts? Yes. That was her thing, is just like, wow. And so she will send me a picture sometime and say, look at this. And I'll giggle. I'll giggle. And so that was something I told her. I said, you know what? You should look up because you have internet, mom. You can look up and they have different teachers that are from all over the world. She's amazed that I am teaching online and that like you're talking to a lady in Africa? Yes, ma'am. I'm talking to a lady in Africa. I'm talking to a lady in Canada. I'm talking to a lady in Australia. And she's just amazed. Like that has never crossed her mind to think of she can go to a summit and see somebody from Africa, see somebody from Australia, see somebody from Canada. It just never crossed her mind. And so, I mean, I just feel like, that's something we that I love is just seeing the different teachers from different places because if it's a summit, then I can say, "Ooh, we want this person at our guild," or let's have this person at our retreat, So I just it's amazing. And that's what I love seeing is all the different teachers from all the different places. So we are coming to an end, and I want to an answer for one more question, which is, let's finish this sentence. Quilt Summit helps a quilter because, Matt, you want to start?
I think opportunity is the word that I think of. It gives opportunity for students to learn. It gives opportunity for students to shine for the next round of teachers to start showing, those tall poppies poking up. For me, it's opportunity to meet new people, to just for everything, opportunity.
Okay. How about you, Elise?
It's an opportunity to be a part of something larger than yourself and to expand your mind. I feel like the creativity that I'm gaining through quilting has helped me in so many other areas of my life. So just thinking about things differently. Um, I think it's an experience that everyone should, try at least once. You know, I think it was Summit before last, there was an African um, educator who put fabric on canvas and made faces. And it was so amazing. I don't remember his name, but I think even if you're not a quilter, you can benefit from the summit.
Oh, definitely. Elizabeth?
Um, One word would be cultivate. I'm gonna cheat. 2 words: cultivating community,
Mm.
because the community out there is so diverse, and you may during the summit, as you're looking through the classes, looking through the lectures, looking through all that, you might find something that's really sparks your interest. That is something you would probably never have thought of or decided to try or pursued. Um, that it is out of your normal comfort zone. So just say creating community. Yeah. Cultivating community. Whatever sounds better. That's it.
You know what? I will say that, just the learning environment really, really helps quilters, not just a new quilter, that whole learning environment of the summit or, conference. And I really, really like what Elise says that it does help you in other different things in your life. I came into quilting during the pandemic and I wasn't quilting then, but I was building a dollhouse and I needed a dollhouse quilt. And I just thought, oh, let's just go to Etsy. And I was like, $70. I don't think so. I know how to sew. I'm gonna give me some fabric. And then that's what got me to starting to watching the videos. And so, then it's like, okay, I'm watching videos. So then I'm learning quilting and then I went to a conference and there were so many different ones. And I think I started going to Summit maybe this might be my fourth Summit. And I learned so much. And it's just been so easy because guess what? I don't have to go nowhere. I can do it at home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, having
There's
all
no,
your own tools and stuff right where you
yes,
know
Oh,
where they
that's
are is
yeah.
so nice. It's
yes.
being
And
able to turn
so,
the camera off and just sit on the couch and listen to people if you're like got to check out on your own time. So nice.
Mhm.
yes. So that is my thing. Because you know what? When you go to, let's say like a retreat, you're gonna forget something. You're gonna have
Oh,
to,
yeah.
can I borrow this? But when I'm at home, I got everything. Let me just grab it from where it's at. So, that is, I think, the best thing that helps. Number one, sometimes I do have stuff that I pick up that I'm just like, I remember I got this for something, but what did I get this for? And then, it'll be somebody will pick that up and show, like, this is how you use this ruler. Yes, thank you. Because I've had this ruler hanging that I forgot what I bought it for. So, I just want everybody to know that, a Quilt Summit and Quilt Africa Summit really, really has a diverse group of people that really, really can help you, give you confidence, know that you are part of something bigger than yourself, So Quote Africa Summit, it has been so much fun, you know. And like I said, being able to stay at home has been the best thing ever. So I want to thank you all for sharing your voices, your experience, and your quilting wisdom. What I'm taking away from this conversation is that Quilt Africa Summit is not just about learning a new technique. It's about being seen, being encouraged, being connected, and being reminded that our stories belong in fabric. When quilters gather, we don't just make quilts, we make confidence, we make community, we make room for the next person to begin. So I would say, like, if you have someone in your life, and it could be a teenager that is like, I think I want to learn how to quilt, gift them Quilt Africa Summit. Let them into what some people call the secret society. Bring them into quilting. And I just really, really love when I see kids getting into quilting. Because at one point, I think I felt like quilting was a dying art, sewing was a dying art. And now it's making a resurgence, and I am happy about that. And I think that Quilt Africa Summit, any kind of summit, can help new quilters, kids who want to get into quilting, anybody who wants to get into quilting. So everybody, let's all come to Quilt Africa Summit, July 8th, 9th, and 10th. Learn a little bit, learn a lot, have fun, have fun, and enjoy our teachers, enjoy the community. We have some quilters that will be showing their work, and that's always the best thing, because when you see others work, it's inspiring. So I just want everybody to come join us at Quilt Africa Summit. Come have fun.
And make friends and put yourself out there.
Oh, yeah.
Friend everybody on social media so
Mhm.
you can have those connections even after the summit.
Definitely. Definitely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
have
Thank
a
you.
great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Go.
It's a wrap. Thanks, Chen.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Judie, for
Thank you
everything.